everyone. This is my first chance to sit down with a real, live, genuine rock band. Actually, I understand these guys are in the metal world. And I am excited because they're having me listen live with them to one of their recent releases. And it's going to be a fun experience, and I really think that it's going to be interesting, and I hope you all enjoy it too. The name of the band is Aftermath, and I understand that they came into existence back in 1985, so they've been around for quite a while. And the song that I'll be listening to is one of their recent singles releases, I believe. It's called No Time to Waste. So, welcome, Aftermath.
Hello.
And
nice to meet you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for joining me here. Do you want to tell a little bit about yourselves to start with, or introduce who's in the band? Anything like that?
Sure. I'm Charlie. I sing in the band. And just one thing I got to correct. We formed in 1985, broke up in 1996. We were broken up. We reunited in 2015. So we were gone for 2 decades, you know. So we weren't around all the way from 85 till now. And this is Ray, the drummer.
Ah, okay.
Hello. Glad to be here. This is George, our bass player.
How are you?
Steve will be here any
George
minute.
on bass and
Nice.
and our guitar player is not here because he's on the way here.
All right. Well, if he gets to join us, that'll be fabulous. Otherwise, we'll miss him. Nice to meet you all. And I was curious because Vlad was telling me, he looked up a bit of the history of your band. And he was telling me that you have somebody from Greece and you have, different people involved in the band. How did you all get to know each other? How did you get acquainted in the first place?
We all went to the same high school, but Ray was a little bit younger, the drummer. But myself and Steve were in the same class in high school, and the next year I seen him in the parking lot of junior college that we were going to go to, and that's how the band began. But with me and Steve writing some songs, and then we knew Ray. Again, he went to the same school with us, but I knew him through a couple of years younger, so I knew him through my brother. And we went over to his house, played him the songs we had written, and this is right at the beginning of a brand new genre. It wasn't. It was exciting and fresh because it wasn't a previous cousin or older people ever played this style of music, and then we brought him over to Ray's, and that's how it started in October of '85. Yeah, on Halloween night is when we actually formed.
That kind of answers one of my other questions, which was, how did you decide the genre or style of music you would be playing? Because, what gets a person into that style to start with?
Well, what it was when I first heard the first Metallica album, I thought, what is this? The vocals sounded so unprofessional to me, so like a local friends band would be doing. It didn't sound like everything we were used to, like Iron Maiden or Iron Maiden, all the great recordings of hard rock bands, whether it's Deep Purple or Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Queensryche, whatever it was at the time. It sounded like something that's more accessible and more like a non-rock star vibe, more like how the punk rockers had it. So that's what made me get into it. And then I go, hey, hit the lights on that first Metallica album, and the faster songs. I go, man, it'd be cool if I formed a band and made them all like their fastest songs, because again, their debut album wasn't full on like Slayer's Rain and Blood is, non-stop speed and thrash, and it was a brand new genre, and it was the doorway into it. It actually felt like, just like the punk rockers in the 70s said in England, like they were sick of Zeppelin and Yes, and through punk rock, a lot of new, fresh people got into the music scene where otherwise they wouldn't, because they thought it was not possible.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was Ride the Lightning, the second Metallica album.
Interesting.
It just changed everything. So,
Yeah, just to be able to play something that was
Interesting.
brand new. Because again, literally, there was nothing like that before we started. It became normal later, known as the early Aftermath became normal later as the crossover genre actually got a title and a name. But at that point, it wasn't even there wasn't even a name for it. We were. I remember when we were trying to describe ourselves, we didn't know what to call it at the time, so we called it thrash core.
I see. And so what does it get called now?
Well, now we're not even in that genre. Like, see, after the first 2 years, I personally wanted to expand right away. So I figured I love Pink Floyd and I love stuff like that, technical, even jazz. So we ended up becoming a technical progressive thrash band where there's jazz elements, there's just a plethora of sounds and styles all in the thrash genre. And where we're at now is going to be our third album will be released. So there's not even really a name for it's just intense heavy music, you know what I mean? It's thrash metal if you want to just call it that, because it was crossover, it was technical progressive, now it's all under the same.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how much you know about me, but I am very, very, very new to anything having to do with rock or metal or any of that. I've lived my life in the classical world, and I never really ventured out of that so far. I mean, sure, jazz, to me, that's kind of crosses with classical in a lot of ways, but I've never gotten into this newer set of music, like from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. So you're throwing out some words that I can't really say I know what thrash this or whatever that is, but I get the idea.
Yeah, no, it's exciting,
And
man. You get fresh ears.
yeah, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you.
Well, you will realize
So,
with the genre of heavy metal, it's pretty played by well-played musicians, and there's a million different styles. There's so many different. Every band has its own unique style when they're good, not the copycat bands, but I mean the unique ones. You know, so it's you're gonna enjoy the ride of musical sounds. You know.
I am enjoying the ride, and I think I will continue to enjoy the ride.
I seen your Mean Streets video.
So another.
I seen that video where you did
Go
Van
ahead.
Halen. That was cool. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another question that I had was, well, okay, your name Aftermath. Again, Vlad looked it up and he said there are actually quite a few groups by the name of Aftermath from all around the world. But you seem to be the first who picked this name back in 1985. So how do you feel about having so many other artists going for this same name? Is it a copycat thing like you just referred to, or just coincidence, or what?
No, I feel like they're all idiots because in 85, if we had Google, the first thing I would do if I thought of a name, I would type in the name and I go, I don't care if there was one little band in Texas using it. I would go, oh, time to think of a new name. But for some reason, these morons all around the world are Google. I mean, they're just uncreative idiots. That's what I say. They don't want their own fresh moniker. I mean, if there was no Aftermath as far as we knew, and we did a legal search and we had a trademark. We trademarked the name actually, and we even sued Dr. Dre about him using it for his record company. So to me, To me, if I started, I would never use a name that anybody else was using that I know. Only if I didn't know. Like in '85, we did the best we can, and pretty much there wasn't a million Aftermaths around. But now, it confuses me. But then again, it's I guess they're just can't think of their own creative name.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Google, man, find it out. If somebody don't use it.
And what? Yeah, right. What made you choose the name Aftermath?
Well, when I was trying to name the band, I was working at O'Hare Airport, and I was supposed to be screening people going through, the X-ray machines as a teenager, and I was writing a list of names, and I remember I wrote a big list, and Aftermath just sounded fresh to me. I just liked the way it sounded, and then I brought it down to Ray and Steve to show them. It was a list of a lot of names, and they liked it too, so we went with it. But back then, nobody even used the word, because I remember everybody used to do this joke. What's Aftermath? What's next? After English? like a math class, you know. So they use it everywhere on news clips, you know, the aftermath of the game, the aftermath of this. But then it was a rarely used word. So believe it or not, people didn't even know the meaning then, you know.
Is there any? Well, you mentioned Metallica. I suppose that would maybe you would say that was your original inspiration.
No,
or
not
the
at
thing
all.
that pushed you into this.
No,
No?
no. They made me feel like it's possible to be in a band because I didn't think they were. I didn't think it was like at the level of the greats. You know what I mean? I thought it was like. I thought it was possible through them. They didn't influence me at all. They influenced me to want to make fast music as a whole album because I liked their one song a lot, "Hit the Lights" and "Metal Militia." The other stuff like "Jump in the Fire," I wasn't that much into that stuff because they didn't. You know, if I wanted to listen to like more normal heavy metal, I would listen to the bands that did it better. You know, but the thing that made me want to play music was Van Halen, but. I mean, made me love music and Kiss when I was a little child, you know, when I was in pre-teen years. But the influence was them to make you get into listening. But there was no real influence to want to play it besides the whole thrash underground scene.
So many influences growing up. So many influences growing up. I mean, from Led Zeppelin to AC/DC to just listening to the radio. I always wanted to get into music. And, you know, Metallica and Slayer, and they came later, but early on was definitely, you know, and Van Halen. You know, I had my 8-track player, had 8-track tapes, Aerosmith, you know, early stuff, and
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, yeah, one of my all-time favorites. I mean, I named my son after the drummer. That's how much I love him. So, I mean, it's just that type of thing. So.
Yeah, Ray named his son after Ian Pace, the drummer in Deep Purple.
Cool. So do you have any bands that inspire you or that you have huge admiration for at this point in your careers?
Well, not any new bands that are out there, but like let's say for thrash metal, I think the Kings and the greatest thrash metal album is Rain and Blood by Slayer. I think that's a masterpiece in the genre. So, and again, Van Halen as a child, you know, growing up, your favorite band, Eddie Van Halen, you know, the album you took Mean Streets from Fair Warning, I think is a masterpiece, you know, and Women and Children First, the one before that. And Kiss Rock and Roll Over is the first album I bought in my life. I was like 7 years old. Used.
Okay.
But there's nothing current that I find any inspiration from at all.
Okay. So you kind of look back to find it.
Yeah, all old school for me also. I mean, you know, the new music is new music. It's kind of all sounds the same to me now, because back long ago, those bands had style, and you could tell the guitar sound, you could tell the drummer, you could tell the bass player. I mean, now everything sounds, unfortunately, the same. So, I mean, for me, it's definitely the old school.
Yeah, you're not a regular heavy metal listener, like you said, but if you were, you'd notice the difference between the legendary bands and the ones now where they're all recorded kind of the same. The drums are all like recorded as in a grid. It's all in a grid, you know. It doesn't seem live and natural. There's no mistakes on it. It takes away the humanity from it, you know.
I can understand that, not from the metal perspective, but it's also a phenomenon in the classical world where it seems like music study has become so universally formulaic that everyone learns the same way, the same things, the same approach in a lot of ways. And it's hard to find somebody that really sounds incredibly genuine and unique in their musical approach. You do find them, but they're few and far between. And I guess
I didn't expect to hear that in
it's
classical
part of
world.
just the world we live in.
Well, I think it's okay. Well, I didn't know about the classical world, but I know it's also in rap and hip hop and in pop music. It just seems overall maybe everything's been done so much, and the way it's recorded now, and it's easier. It's just a lot of garbage out there. It's just a lot of bad music, you know. And I don't want to be negative about it, but it's just a fact.
Yeah, well, it's like there's everybody who does it, and then there are the few who stand out and who really have something fresh and unique to say with who they are and what they have to offer musically.
And I also believe the lyrics are important too. I mean, I have a total when I write all the lyrics I write, it's for all humanity. It's a message to the world. It's an observation and of a person that thinks he needs to spread it with the information with the rest of the world. It's not just frivolous lyrics, and it's not fantasy lyrics. It's reality, 100%.
Well, I am so curious to hear this music. I have not heard one note from this recording, and Vlad listened to it with headphones on so that he would know whether it was something that was worth me spending time on. He said, yeah, you should definitely check it out. So I'm walking into this totally unexposed. I did listen to a piece of music yesterday, which he says is kind of similar, but it's from a rather unknown band, which was Romanian and short-lived because of a horrible tragedy, which basically destroyed the whole band.
Oh wow! I mean,
I'm
what's
doing
the name
I'm
of it?
doing a sort of
What's the
I'm
name
doing
of
a
that
sort
band?
of commemorative. The name of the band is called Goodbye to Gravity.
That's sad.
Was called.
That something tragic happened.
Anyway, I'm doing a commemorative little thing on my YouTube page in a few days. So
I'll check it
anyway, we'll get to that. Maybe keep your eyes open for it in the next couple of weeks,
Yeah,
because it'll be coming out maybe
definitely.
in 2 weeks' time, and you might be interested. But and I was really impressed by that piece of music, and he says that's the one that's most similar to your style, but I haven't heard your style. So let's just
By the way, that's Steve,
see how this goes.
Hi, everyone.
the guitar player.
Oh, hi, so glad you made it, just in time. So here we are. I have your music and your song in front of me. No time to waste. Did you say this was a newly released single and that you're putting out a new album?
Yeah, this is the title track of an album that's going to come out in January. The album's called No Time to Waste. Title track.
Cool. All right. So
Our third album.
let's just dive in and see how it goes.
The scumbags are in control. World of confusion, a world of distress. Civilized scatter into the sky. False flags are flying, this isn't our chance. Gaslighting people makes us upset. Problem, reaction, solution, you die. Smash, reset, control, smash. No time, no time, no time to waste. 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 Smashing, resetting, control, pull out the whistle. Human resources, something is wrong. Criminal leaders, crisis creators. They need to vanish, you've been informed. Problem, reaction, solution, you die. Smash, reset, control, smash. No time, no time, no time to waste. 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 You have been hacked.
I'm going to pause it there for a minute because that's kind of a lot for me to take in all at once. It's got this sort of incredible, vibrant energy to it well, as you can tell with some of my other videos I've done, I am so new to this kind of music that it's hard for me to make out really how to understand it and interpret it. And it might seem weird because I know so many people say, "Oh, I heard it as a child and I just, I just latched onto it." And for me personally, I am working hard to figure out how to understand it and how to relate to it in a way that makes sense. Maybe it's because I mean, I really have no idea why, but seems like some kids must get it quicker than I do. That's okay. One of the things go ahead.
Well, you think of it, there's so many emotions, right? There's like mellow emotion where you hear like a mellow song where it's a perfect setting. Music is like a drug. So this is meant to be full of energy and anger and frustration and exploding sounds. You know what I mean? It's like a fast moving train, you know, with full of information and riffs and drum beats and everything. It's supposed to be all it needs. It needs the energy. It needs the power. You know. And especially young boy, you know, when you're growing up, it's easy to lash on to this because when I was a little boy, I wouldn't want to listen to love songs. You know, I wanted to listen to loud, crazy music. You know.
Yeah. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But even within this, what at first, if I'm not paying attention, I would just consider it to be noise that I wanted to shut out of my awareness. When I give attention to it and I focus on it, I start hearing things, details, subtle adjustments, shifts within the instrumental layers and the voice and how they play back and forth, and I'm looking forward to getting better at hearing those things more quickly and more easily. But I do hear those, and I guess that's one thing that I like about this that you have here so far in this song, is because yes, from my background, if I hear that, my first instinctive response is to shut it out, to block it off, because it does first hit me as just noise. And
noise played by amazing
that's just
musicians.
The honest truth.
I mean, if you're a musical person and when you get used to this, you'll be able to tell right away what noise is and what is played by well-skilled musicians. You know what I mean? Right now, coming up in this part that you're in the middle of the song, it's the breakdown. Now you'll get to hear the solo and the middle section. You know what I mean? And when it gets back into the verses,
right.
And again, the verses are supposed to smash you in the face with information, because again, no time to waste. What the meaning of the song is a message to the world of urgency, because there really is no time to waste. I mean, what is happening in the world is moving fast. Yeah,
It does move fast. It does move fast. And what I was saying is, even though that's the way it first hits me, if I put effort into listening and trying to get into it, I begin to hear. I can't follow all the words. I have something to ask you about words afterwards that came to mind here, but I'll ask you when I'm done listening. But I start to hear words here and words there, and I start to hear details of the way the percussion is being handled, the way the guitar is being handled, the balance of the instruments and those things. And I can't say that I love this kind of music at this point, but it fascinates me. The idea that in a onslaught of sound like this, that at first sounds like absolute chaos, it is possible to unravel it and pull it apart and begin to see that there is quite a careful design and structure and effort put into creating it, and that it is not really truly all just noise if you dig in far enough. It's kind of like
exactly.
Kind of
that's
makes
a good
me
way
think
to think
of
it.
It makes me think of something like some complex mathematical process where you look at just a bunch of numbers on the page, it means nothing, and you sit down and you start going portion by portion through the different steps, and you begin to see something coming out of it which does have sense and logic and meaning behind it. So that's kind of where I am in my journey of being able to
in your early journey
understand
of
and relate
music,
to. Yeah. So this is a really interesting experience for me.
Yeah, like Steve said, the opening chords are jazz chords, but you will come across noise as a genre. There's an underground genre that you're going to hear stuff that are pure noise, and there's also industrial noise. So, like Einstürz and the Neubauten, been around for 40 years, German band, there's noise bands. So, you will notice once your ear gets trained to heavy music, what bands are playing noise and what bands are playing music that's just intense. Real music, not noise.
Yeah. It's just a strange experience for me because I am a musician in my own world, and I'm not used to struggling so hard to understand a piece of music as I am in this new project that I've undertaken to kind of get into rock and metal and, all this music. And so it's just fascinating to kind of watch myself try to understand something which feels like it ought to be natural. I mean, I'm a musician. I should be able to do it, right?
Yeah.
But it is so different in so many ways. And at the same time, there is a huge overlap and crossover. Anyway, let me just go on, listen to this next section here, because
Cool.
you said it is coming to a different section.
Time to waste. You have been hacked. Vibrations bent. Spiraling down into the sea. Electricity is free.
I gotta say, I love that moment of silence where it just kind of resets your ears and cleans it off before you dive
Wait,
back
moment
in.
of silence. Hey, you're classical music, right? You're from the classical world. That's dynamics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said, this is actually very helpful to listen to this with you
electricity
here
is
to
free.
talk to me about it, because what you said about it being about no time to waste, there's the sense of urgency. Instantly after you say that, I am listening to it and approaching it from a different angle and feeling like, oh yeah, I see how that is being communicated in the music. I didn't pick up on that at first, it just sounded like hectic, but what
Wow, that's
reason
cool.
for? And now you're telling me that's the reason, and so now I'm beginning to understand. Yeah.
That's
all
cool
right.
that you
Let me see
said
if I can
that.
finish.
That's cool that
Yeah,
you
go
picked
ahead.
it up like that too. Because picture this too. When I'm writing these lyrics, it's like me seeing a building on fire and running out to tell the world. That's the feeling I want people to get. Like I'm telling them something that's that urgent, life or death.
I see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to finish this.
While light awakens, my city's unchained. Dispersing the metal, poisoning rain. Clouds eating fires, bioenergetics. Nanoparticles, sustainable development. Problem reacts to solution, you die.
So
All
so
right.
fast drumming there.
Oh, that was. Yeah, I hear it. It's like high speed, high power. That is interesting. And I'm so fascinated with this idea of. Well, I'm trying to put it all in perspective. And so really what you're trying to do then here is you're trying to communicate by creating a. Well, I want to ask you about lyrics first, in a minute. But as far as musically, you're trying to communicate this urgency by creating this sort of urgent sensation within the listener. Is that what you're after here?
Well, we're trying. Well, it's urgent, and the music we want the music to be powerful and energetic, like full of energy, you know. And then the message it's just I don't want to get into the message right now because that's a whole other. It's deep, you know. But it pertains to you and me and everybody around us. It's for everybody. It's for the 99%. You know, and I really mean when I really mean no time to waste. It's like I'm shouting it from the rooftops. I'm telling the world, man, better wake up because there is no time to waste. Because read the lyrics, you'll see what I mean. But I don't want to get into that topic because you might get in trouble like from censors.
Okay.
It's a real dangerous topic.
But okay, I will read the lyrics. Let me ask you this though about the lyrics. So. Again, this is coming from my classical background. When we want to communicate something with lyrics, with words, in the classical tradition.
Is there words in classical?
I won't say 100. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I won't say 100%
all the classical
of the
music
time.
I've heard is mostly instrumental, so I'm not sure even what classical music.
Really?
It's all the classical, like Beethoven, Bach, Strauss, or the darker composers. I know for some reason I can't hear any lyrics. I haven't heard any songs with lyrics. I should go.
Interesting. Interesting. Oh, you should. It's really interesting what they do with painting the words. But what I was saying is, in that, not 100% of the time, but most of the time, our means of communicating the words, the meaning of the words, is not only through the music, but also through making the words understandable to the audience. And one of the things that I find kind of confusing, a little bit bewildering, and like, I guess I'm a little surprised.
Wow, you're really new at this. Just wait until you go to the death metal world. I mean, believe it or not, there's a whole genre of death metal where you're not supposed to understand it. If you know, like to a regular metalhead, these are pretty understandable, but it's not the growl. You know what I mean? It's not death metal. So there is a genre after us that's like, I mean, literally like that, like barking and stuff. Like whether it's Death, the band Death, or Cannibal Corpse, or Morbid Angel. There's a zillion of them right now. When most of them have deep growl voices, this is like understandable in the metal world, you know.
I hear that there are words there, and I can pick out a few words. But I guess my curiosity question is, if you're wanting to communicate this message to everybody, it's so fascinating to me that you do it in a way that isn't immediately decipherable. It takes time to listen, or maybe for some people it is immediately decipherable. For me, it's not.
Just because you're new at it, that's why you'd see in about a year, if you keep going like this and listening to heavy music, you'll go back. Wow, I can understand everything they say, or not just me. I'm saying it's you're too new at it to be able. It's just because you're new. Trust me, you'll see the difference in a year.
That may be. I can understand that, because
I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. Why don't
true.
you, if you have this message, why don't you make them super clear, the lyrics, so people can understand the message, is what your question is. That's what you mean. You know what I mean? If it's the message, make them totally understand.
Yeah, it's a question. It's a question. It's not necessarily a criticism. It's a question.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I know what you mean. I see your perspective, and I'm telling you, it's that you haven't heard it that long. They are very clear, and again, we're a heavy band, and the song needs to be loud and aggressive. But again, you're only hearing one song. Like, we're not
Right.
we're one band that literally, if you listen, trust me, we're one band that every song kind of sounds different. So you're only picking one song out of all the songs we have. It's the newest one,
Understand.
that's why.
So when you compose a song like this, I hear you saying you put a lot of attention and you feel like the lyrics are incredibly important. Is that usually the first thing you do when you go to compose a song, or does the music usually come first? How do the different elements come together when you are creating a song? And is it one of you or all of you? How does that creative process go? Or is it different every time?
It's different every time, but all of us work on the music. Steve writes all the music, and George right now, George right now is adding his stuff, because we're already working on new stuff, even though this album's done and not even out. So it starts with all of us, and Ray is like, he's as important as John Bonham was in Led Zeppelin, because he's just not a normal drummer. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's not writing the riffs, his drum parts are like the riffs. You know?
Yeah, I could hear some really, really dynamic drumming in there.
Yeah, so it's as
and
important
I
as
just recently, and it's going to premiere this Sunday. I just had an introduction to the drums with somebody from Canada who's also a drummer. His name is Carl Sloman, and he also had me go listen to a performance by the drummer of the band Rush.
Oh, Neil Peart.
So
He's one
Neil
of the greatest.
Peart. So
R.I.P.
I'm beginning to get more of an appreciation of the skill and virtuosity that's possible with the drums. And so I was able to start noticing some things in your drumming that I wouldn't have picked up on maybe two or even 3 weeks ago or something.
That's so cool that you want to, that's so cool that, you know, not as a kid, that you want to get into a whole new genre and analyze it. That takes a true music lover, you know, to go that way.
I do love music. I am crazy about music, and I love the fact that it is so universal, and I also love challenging myself. I love taking on things that are kind of tough. And for me, this is kind of tough because it's so foreign, and yet at the same time, it's so much what I love. You know, it's music,
it seems fun.
But it's a kind of music that I am so unfamiliar with. So it has all these different layers of appeal to me.
What did you listen to when you wanted to listen to aggressive music before you got into listening to this? Where would you go to if you want? Because music's all about emotions, and if you felt angry, what did you play?
Well, I have to say that I'm not a particularly angry person. It's just not my personality. I don't know if maybe just a handful of times in my life I've actually felt serious anger. And it's usually when I witnessed an injustice or something like that, you know. And so when I feel angry, it just spurs me to action. But I'm not a particularly angry personality in general. So maybe that's why, that's one of the reasons that it's a bit of a challenge for me, because it's also a set of emotions that I don't go there very often.
That's good.
Well, that's good for you, because it doesn't stress you. You don't stress out then. Anger brings stress.
I stress out about some things, but yeah,
unfortunately,
I stress out about some things, but I'm not a particularly angry person.
Stay that way.
Yeah, and so I guess the one other question I wanted to ask, and you just kind of alluded to it, was that you're already creating new stuff, right? You're constantly creating new stuff. Do you have any big plans for you just have an album coming out. Do you have more plans that you're developing for the future? Where do you see yourself going, or are you just along for the ride?
It just happens. Like, the album's done. 10 songs will be out in January. But last week, Steve comes up with a riff. We all just jump in, and nobody plans it. Like the whole last album, we didn't plan. Let's sit down and write an album. We just one day realized, hey, 10 great songs. Let's record. I mean, it's natural. And it's not like we're just about the message.
Cool.
These guys, when they play their instruments, they're not thinking about the lyrics. They're playing and thinking of great, playing great heavy music. I'm the one that more so like concentrates on the message and the meaning and everything like that. It's not like we're a message band only.
Yeah. I understand. But I love that you take all the different elements into consideration. It's the music, it's the lyrics, it's all the different parts of music that you're putting together to create the most effective impact for what you're aiming to achieve, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I want to tell you, Steve behind me, he'll tell you he's a well-trained, even music teacher. Steve, tell him how long you were wedding band. Tell him about the wedding band.
No, just that I've had some experiences. I took lessons for many years, and after that, at an early age in my teens, I taught lessons for about 7 years. I went on to do like a wedding band and learned all sorts of different styles of music, and it was a lot of fun. Very challenging, but my heart's always been with hard rock, heavy metal, thrash, because I love the aggression. I love how many different ways it could go, how you can introduce country, jazz, classical, anything into metal. Blues, a lot of blues in our music. A lot of people hear that sometimes. So I think we're all, and Ray was even in the wedding band with me for a little bit. So, it really expands your whole library of what you have now to bring that all into the genre that we like.
Well, your wedding band was amazing.
So,
you learned the current hits, and so you
have
all any genre of music. And
yeah,
so
you start after a while. The chords become shapes and pictures, and not just the notes in your head. You could tell that, okay, this is going into a blues riff, this is going into a country riff, this is going into a jazz riff. Whatever the case may be, after a while you can identify all those, and it gives you such a nice library to play around with, where the opening chords of this song, if you played those in a nice soft jazz style kind of guitar, even you'd hear that riff in Paris, someone playing it in the streets. You truly would. And so I took that and I amped it up and I put our energy to it, and I'm like, wow, this is fun. What do you guys think of this? And next thing you know, Ray's got a beat, George got a bass line. Charlie's like, yeah, I'm getting this kind of vibe from this song. And there you go.
That's pretty cool. That's nice. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah, and I
as far
took
as just
guitar lessons from him.
And inspirational. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, like, I actually went and took guitar lessons from him, but I didn't want to learn the notes back then. And I go, Steve, just teach me Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden or something like that. And he goes, no, you got to learn the basics first. And then I started ditching the lessons because I didn't want to I didn't want to learn.
That's how I learned, so.
Yeah, so what I was just trying to say,
yeah.
These guys, they really know. They're not just kids learning. They're like musicians, Not just one style. It's not like some bands that are metal could only play heavy metal, Can I ask? I've seen the Mean Streets video. That was great. So you ended up. That's one of my favorite songs of all time, Van Halen's Mean Streets. And I seen half of the Metallica and Justice for All video. But so what do you think of that song?
The And Justice for All, that was one of my first ones, not the first. Let's see. Vlad gave me some really easy listening ones to start with. He gave me Love of My Life by Queen, and then She's Leaving Home by the Beatles, and then Hey You by Pink Floyd, and then we went to Metallica, and that was definitely a shock and a challenge, and I felt lost, to be honest. I felt lost when I listened to that the first time, and I was thinking, man, I'm a musician. I should have something to say. And I really don't know what I have to say right now. So I just went with whatever came to mind and whatever I could find in it. And I was surprised that people responded and said, yes, you picked up on this, or yes, you picked up on that, or, and of course, they're also giving feedback of saying, oh, come on, you missed this or whatever. But it's just the journey that's fascinating to me, and watching myself, how I react to these different things, and also seeing how other people seem to be able to relate along the way, and at least they're entertained by my experience.
No, it's cool that you're doing it. I mean,
But
it's fun.
hopefully
It's a
it will
lot.
give them something more than just entertainment, It will help them understand that music is truly meaningful and universal. Even stuff that maybe we don't relate to instantly or don't fall in love with. There's still very often a place for it.
It's great having an open mind and wanting to hear new stuff like you do right now, because this kind of channel is interesting to people, because there's another one called Lost in Vegas, two black guys that started doing rock and everything, and now after years of doing it, you see how they know the music well, and it's just fun to watch them progress and become fans of something that they never would have thought of unless they had that channel and sat down and had that experience of doing this, So this yourself, I picture people really want to follow your channel to see how you grow, and it's really interesting to see what happens, how you feel a year from now, with all this music.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I started this project in August. I mean, I'm just like a month and 2.5 months into
Keep it going.
So
keep it going. You're doing a great job.
it's going to be interesting to see where it goes
Exactly.
in the future. But I plan to keep it going.
Exactly.
It's like you say, music is a journey. Just keep.
And let's face it, music's the greatest thing on
It
earth.
is.
And music is so great. There's so. How about "Hey You" by Pink Floyd? You went through that song. Isn't that a masterpiece? Isn't that a great song?
It's gorgeous. It's truly
That's
gorgeous.
a great word
It's one of the
to
songs
describe
that
it.
I will find myself going back to, because it is a real special song in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, see right there. Since you got that, imagine when you listen to the whole Wall album. Sit down. That'll be a great experience for you.
I'm in the process right now.
See, I kind of envy that, because it's like you're going to it and it's something to look forward to. Because I heard all that stuff and I wish I could hear it new again, because it was so exciting in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your position's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We kind of like envy it if you've heard everything a million times. I've searched for everything.
We may have to do a classical
Yeah.
reaction as a band. You
Or
may
maybe
have to
we'll
do
write a classical song just for you for the next album. It'll be all like classical.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that would be quite something, and I would be so curious to see how that would turn out.
So would we.
Well, because
I think that's a fabulous idea.
well, the genre you come from, every music, you respect that. I mean, that's like the ultimate of music playing. You know what I mean? We're also a dance troupe. Ray's an expert break dancer. I do the waltz. Steve does the, what's the tango? And George does the Greek dance, the opa.
That's it.
Well, it's been great fun meeting you all and
Same for
making
us.
an acquaintance. Is there anything you all want to say to my
time to
audience in closing?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and definitely check us out and check all sorts of genres of music out.
Oh yeah. By the way, next time if you hear this song again, if you feel like playing it again, do it through the lyric video, because you'll see the lyrics right away. So that will help. You know what I mean?
All right. I'll do that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Cheers from Chicago.
Have a great rehearsal this evening, and keep up the music.
All right, thank you.
Keep listening.